Let me show you something. This is a spooky crate number 74, a relic of the past if you will. It has been released in October of 2014 and it included nothing but Halloween themed items. And this is a Crimson Cash case, released in October of 2021. It includes almost exclusively Halloween themed items. One of them is remembered fondly and the other lacks all the charm that made Halloween crate special. The difference? Halloween restrictions. It's 29th of October 2013. TF2 is celebrating its 5th annual Scream Fortress event, and one of the things added in this update was a Halloween exclusive spooky crate, containing more than 100 Halloween items, with some of the most influential cosmetics to ever get added to the game. These items were assumed to become a baseline of what a TF2 Halloween cosmetic should be, with huge room for creative output as stated by the dev team. And all of those items were possible thanks to the one attribute that to this day sparks controversy. The one and only holiday restriction. Fast forward 8 years later, TF2 is experiencing one of the roughest years of all time, with bots roaming free, lackluster updates, and zero signs of improvement. It's October 5th, 2021. Scream Fortress 13 finally arrives, and with it another Halloween case, composed of roughly 25 cosmetic items and like 12,000 unusual effects because we need more of those. The case had very little to offer in terms of actual cosmetics, with maybe one item that could be worn all year round. The best example of that would be the corpse carrier, an item so hideously grotesque that it had to be manually restricted after a significant backlash from the community, putting Valve's decision making under a huge fucking question mark. After the year 2018, Valve for inexplicable reasons decided to loosen up the game's art style in favor of the more experimental cosmetics, which in the end translated into a really odd clusterfuck of out-of-the-place hats and jokes that lost their punchline. And over time, more and more cosmetics started losing their charm. As much as people like to argue in favor of the silly goofy cosmetics, the lack of care and quality control placed upon the items is a net negative for everyone, with creators not making much money after the cases stopped dropping, and players getting a huge towering pile of dogshit in place of the quality items that we used to get. You know, like the ones added in Smithsmiths of 2014, cosmetics like the Skull Cap, the Co-Pilot, the Scott Bonnet, and 25 other beautiful items that perfectly fit the game's art style, which today cost a ton of money thanks to them being retired and actually really fucking good. Cosmetics that we don't see much nowadays due to Valve using darts as a way of picking workshop submissions to fill up the cases. On the other hand, we have the TF2 Workshop, a magical place where you can find best of the best items ready to get accepted into the game. Ever since it launched in 2011, the Steam Workshop served as the front line of potential additions to the game, allowing people to contribute their wildest ideas for a chance of them getting in, and people poured their hearts into those creations, blessing us with some of the best cosmetics in the entire game. However, as the time passed, more and more creators left the TF2 Workshop, presumably to find work somewhere else, and those that stayed, well, they didn't age well to say the least. Over the past couple of years, the quality of items on the workshop has deteriorated by a significant margin, as we can notice by looking at some of the hats added in the last couple of updates. Some of the most acclaimed workshoppers with decades of experience had adjusted their work to fit more in the Valve event quota, rather than stylizing it to fit the actual game. Obviously, multiple factors played into the state that TF2 Workshop is in currently, with Valve being for blame for most of it, but knowingly making items that do not fit the game's art style is entirely on the workshop creators. And that's not to say that there are no passionate workshoppers, as you can certainly find a shit ton of good submissions. But the problem lies in the amount of bad cosmetics rather than the lack of good ones. But as the old saying goes, you either die a hero or see yourself modeling a Christmas tree. During the Gunmetal update, Valve introduced a new type of item called Decorated Weapons, a rather not so surprising addition considering how much of a goldmine CSGO's skin market is. Those came in the form of collections containing a bunch of weapon-specific skins that dropped every new update or so. Couple of years later, among the Jungle Inferno update, Valve dropped a shell bomb called Warpaint, something that at first was just an expansion of already existing skins, soon turned into a blank canvas that could be filled with virtually anything. Due to the way Valve implemented the Warpaint system, it severely decreased the bar of entry, allowing for basically anyone to make their own Warpaint. Even me. It's a easy to start, hard to master kind of deal, making the Warpaint section on the Steam Workshop one of the most diverse in terms of quality. Following the next years, Valve would stick to the Warpaint system, as there is no fucking updates to make collections for. And the updates that we do get are filled with seasonal trash that doesn't fit the game outside certain events. It is such a shame that we won't see Warpaints that are not a wrapping paper or the Halloween candy, just because Valve only adds a Warpaint case for the 2 times the game gets an update during the year, not mentioning all of the shady shit that's been uploaded and added to the game over the past few years. I apologize if you find my language a little unusual, have always been an integral part of the game and a very important source of revenue for Valve. And there is no denying that unusuals have had a significant impact on the TF2 as a whole, Burning Flames team captain being one of the many examples of that, with countless documentaries and Reddit posts making it probably the most well-known unusual to ever be unboxed, perfectly exemplifying the grotesque nature of TF2 in a way that's memorable and very unique to this game. Unusuals have always had this unusual level of liberty when it comes to TF2's art style. Most likely due to the fact that unusuals were in fact supposed to be rare, which the TF2 dev team achieved for the first few years of the game's 15-year-old lifespan. Back in the old glory days, unusuals were usually tied to the series of crates, creating a very clear distinction between each generation. And that was a fitting solution, as it allowed to include a wide variety of unusuals while keeping them tame enough to not look too out of place. With the only exception to this rule being Halloween unusuals, but those were tied to a strict time frame, so only a bunch of those got unboxed. However, this all changed with the introduction of the now infamous case system. Due to the release of decorated weapons, Valve replaced the old crate system for the brand new cases, fundamentally changing how unusuals dropped. Now, instead of having a series of crates dropping unusuals from a predetermined pool, all new unusual effects are tied to the cases they came with, making those unusuals unavailable for all of the older HUDs. Would you like to own a safe and sound with a sound wave effect? That's too bad. Divine Sunlight on your brain bucket. You're out of luck. Maybe defragmenting reality on a defragmenting hard hat. Try again next time. What happened to the unusual generations? The switch from crates to cases promptly cut short the divide between each generation for no apparent reason. In comparison to almost every new unusual effect, those were stylized to fit the game, even for unusual standards. But nowadays, most of the unusuals that we get are just spin-offs of the first-gen energies with some sort of gimmick added on top. The Summer 22 case is a prime example for how homogeneous the unusual market is. Not only are most of the unusuals a combination of particles we've seen a million times, or they come in not one, not two, but seven. 7 fucking recolors. It's just a bummer that we won't ever see a nice fitting unusual effect ever again, since Valve incentivizes laziness over genuine creativity. While I was making this video, Valve decided to gracefully push out the Scream Fortress 14 update, which, unsurprisingly, was the same fucking update we got for the last 5 years. But hey, at least this time the hat case was decent, right?
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.